Hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm Linda McNamee, and in a couple seconds, or maybe a minute or two, we will be talking about Burlington's upcoming Relay for Life, as well as surviving cancer, something that seems to be a lot more frequently talked about in the news today. But before I begin, actually, if you have any questions about this evening, or you have a comment, or would like to talk to our guest, whom you will meet shortly, you can give us a call at 781-270-9199. Or if you have a question later on, or you just want to email me, want to say hi, you can email me at talk@bcattv.org. Love to get emails. So if you have a suggestion for a future topic that you'd like to see on the program, just drop me a note. Also, I would like to thank the crew, my crew, and the staff here at BCAT. We have Corey McNeil and Mike Duvall, who are staff members here. And together with some other staff members, they keep the place running and make sure everybody looks good. And I also have volunteer extraordinaire Colleen Moore tonight, who's directing me. Thank you, Colleen, for giving up your Wednesday night to come and direct and try to make me look good, but definitely make my guest look good. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank my husband Paul for staying home for Daddy Date Night. Hopefully the kids are behaving themselves and you don't have to watch too many Frozen videos on YouTube, and you can have an early evening. So anyway, I think that's enough of the official business. I would like to thank my guest, Katy Nowoswiat. That's what happens when I don't look at my notes. Thank you, Katy, for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully you will answer all the questions we have about the upcoming Relay for Life. And we will have a few other questions answered and a few things to think about. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Can we start out by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, how you became involved in the American Cancer Society, and why you decided to take over organizing the relay?
Sure. So I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I attended Lowell High School, went on to Clark University, where I majored in Spanish and sociology, and then continued at Clark, got my master's degree in business administration.
Okay.
I worked for a little while at the Chamber of Commerce in Marlborough doing social media for part-time. And then I was continually looking for a full-time job. I had been a volunteer for the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life all throughout college. So when the opportunity came up to work for the organization, I jumped on it, immediately applied. Exactly. I had friends that worked there. I knew what Relay for Life was and how it worked, at least from the volunteer perspective, and knew that it was something that I would want to dedicate my time to.
Now, when you were going to college, sociology and Spanish?
Yes.
Did you want to work with nonprofits, or were you just like, okay, I'm good at this, I enjoy this, and this is what I want to do?
I really enjoyed volunteerism and giving back. That's a main tenet of what I feel people should do with their lives. But when I was in graduate school, studying big corporations and making money, that's more when I realized that I wanted to do nonprofit rather than for-profit.
More mission-driven.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was kind of me too. It's like, no, I don't want to do corporate. I want to do the mission,
right.
The whole mission.
I wouldn't mind working for corporate one day, but more on the giving end.
Okay. The philanthropic side.
Exactly.
Of the big picture. Now, not to jump into the more personal side, but my understanding was you have also been, or had been diagnosed with cancer?
Correct.
And was that when you were in college, or?
I was 3, actually. It was just before my 3rd birthday.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's been a long time.
Okay. So like having to figure out, you know, your parents kind of mapped you along the way.
Exactly.
So are you considered cancer-free at
Yes,
this point?
for over 20 years at this point.
Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you.
So is that kind of why you have a soft spot for American Cancer Society?
It is. It really, I think, before Relay for Life, I participated in other cancer walks.
Okay.
But nothing has held a candle to the experience that I've had at Relay. It helped me kind of come to terms with being a cancer survivor and being a young adult, because it's not something that you go around telling everybody, hey, I'm a cancer survivor. But this is it's a comfortable, welcoming environment where being a cancer survivor is something that is celebrated rather than something that you have to hide.
Oh, okay. That works. Yeah, it just seems like, you know, the advent of, or the popularity of Facebook. I mean, it seems like every other person I know is now being diagnosed with cancer. So it seems like it's a lot more common. Now, do you happen to know if it is more common, or is it just a heightened awareness?
I think it's definitely more of an awareness. Cancer rates have decreased in the past couple of decades.
Oh, they have. Okay.
So it's just people being able, I think, being more comfortable with telling others about it.
Okay.
We've just gotten to this point where there's not as much stigma attached to having cancer as there is in other countries. So we're kind of lucky here.
Oh, okay. Now, do you know, in your case or just research in general, does there tend to be a genetic factor or hereditary factor in being diagnosed with cancer? Like, are you more, I don't know if susceptible is the right word, but is it more common for people with a family history to be diagnosed?
It definitely depends on the type of cancer. For mine, it was just a genetic mutation. There's no family history. I had a retinoblastoma. It's pretty rare childhood cancer, but there's no family history of it. It was a mutation, and actually the tumor that I had, once it was removed, was studied by a scientist for a number of years after the surgery, and he was eventually able to tell my family exactly which chromosome that the mutation occurred on and who it came from, which either my mother or my father, and so they studied it pretty extensively to help with the research.
Dad, it's all your fault, or, you know, whatever.
It was actually Mom. But
you did this to me. Now, the research that was done in your case, do you know, or do you see the research being possible as a result from events such as Relay for Life?
Definitely. A lot of the money that is raised at Relay events goes to research and funding different research projects. So I know, especially if you look at the 2013 facts and figures for the American Cancer Society, there's a specific focus on childhood cancer, and it goes into the numbers a lot deeper than we ever have. Tells about all different kinds of cancer and the occurrence rates. So a good portion of this money does help scientists who are looking to try to find cures for this disease.
Okay. Now, in your case, they were able to like isolate the chromosome and figure out why it happened. Do you see a trend? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. For some of certain types of cancers being closer to a cure?
There's definitely more money being put into certain types of cancer. So breast cancer, obviously, we know it's everywhere. The pink ribbon is everywhere, and they've identified certain genes that make you more susceptible, if you will, to getting breast cancer. And I think it tends to be this way with a lot of popular diseases that the money gets poured into trying to find a cure.
Like the squeaky wheel, you know, the old saying of the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yep. So I think every day we get closer. Not just with breast cancer, but with all cancers, and treatments improve and early detection improves, and all these things help.
Okay. Well, I didn't realize that you were 3 when you were diagnosed, so I apologize if I'm like putting you on the spot for things, but you know, the best friend that I have in the entire world right before Thanksgiving, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So she's early 40s, you know, there had been a history. So I was kind of thinking in her case as an adult, do you know of like support organizations, support mechanisms, resources that are available for people diagnosed so they don't have to go through this alone?
Absolutely. Especially, I can name a million programs with the American Cancer Society. We have whatever kind of support you're looking for, whether you just want to join an online group, there's a number of those. We also have different support groups that meet. We have cancer resource volunteers in pretty much every major hospital that try to work with as many newly diagnosed patients as possible and introduce them to the different programs and services that might be of use to them.
Okay.
So we have, for example, the Hope Lodge, where you can stay if you're far away from treatment, and it's free to cancer patients and a caregiver. You get a bedroom to yourself, kitchen facilities, laundry facilities, all
okay. Like an
one.
efficiency apartment type thing?
Exactly.
Almost?
It's the big one here is in Boston. It's the AstraZeneca Hope Lodge. There's also a smaller one in Worcester.
Okay.
And they're becoming more popular throughout the country. American Cancer Society is opening up more and more Hope Lodges because they just serve so many people and they're such a great resource. But if that's not, there is a waiting list all the time.
Oh, wow.
So if that's not an option, we also have Road to Recovery volunteers, which will drive cancer patients to their treatment. If, for example, a husband or a wife can't take off the time to drive their spouse to treatment, then we have these volunteers that come in and they form a bond with the person undergoing treatment and just drive them. And
now, are some of those volunteers cancer survivors themselves?
A
or
lot
could
of
it
them
be
are,
anybody?
yeah. Someone who has been a caregiver previously and knows how much this means to someone currently battling cancer, they often volunteer. They're usually older people, but we get them of all ages who just want to help out in some way, and this is an easy thing that they can do.
Oh, excellent. Now, how would somebody find out? If someone were to log on to the American Cancer website, would there be links to some of these?
Yep, they're everywhere, and we also have our 1-800 number that's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that people can call and say, I'm looking for XYZ, and they'll direct you exactly where you need to go.
Excellent. All these resources available.
Yes.
Now, again, kind of thrown off a little bit. Do you know of a lot of some of the treatments that are available? A lot of times there are negative or adverse reactions to them. Like this particular friend of mine, she started going through chemo, and through the first 6 weeks or 8 weeks of her treatment, the tumor like doubled in size, so they had to like redo it. Do you know of, is that common? You know, are there generally like, not really allergic reactions, but adverse reactions to treatments, and how do people go about that?
I think it definitely depends on your course of treatment. One of the great things is that nowadays there are different treatments available. So whereas 20 years ago you didn't have that many options, now you have so many different options, and you can kind of discuss with your doctor what the best course of treatment is, depending especially on the stage of cancer that you have. So obviously if you're a more advanced stage, they're going to want to attack it more aggressively than if you're at an earlier stage, and they can try to lessen some of those side effects. But I mean, in the end, if you really look into what chemo is, it's a lot of toxic chemicals that are trying to attack the tumors, so it can definitely have adverse reactions.
Okay. Well, she has also had an adverse reaction to some of the anti-nausea medication. It like made her start these tremors, and she couldn't control shaking and everything, and she ended up, her treatment was based in Worcester, but she ended up coming to Dana-Farber for like a second or third opinion, and so speaking of stream of consciousness, do you know if there's like a network of doctors? Is there, do doctors tend to talk to each other from hospital to hospital? Or is that kind of out of your scope?
Yeah, I'm not too sure in that. I think one of the great things about living in the Northeast, though, is that we do have some of the best medical services in the entire world, right, in our backyards.
Oh,
so
exactly.
if you do want a second opinion, you don't have to go far to get one.
Right. Okay. Now, you mentioned that you are cancer-free, and you have been for 20-something years. Did you have to go through treatments, or was it just a surgery that they were able to remove the tumor and boom, be done with it? Or?
Yes, I was actually really lucky that the tumor was enclosed kind of within my eyes.
Okay.
So all they had to do was remove the tumor. I mean, in the process, they removed the eye, so I do have a prosthetic left eye now. But it was kind of a one and done thing. It was, I was very lucky. I always joke that if you're going to get cancer, you want to get something like mine because it's easy to fix. Exactly.
All right.
Definitely follow-up treatments, follow-up appointments for many months afterwards, but now I only go once a year just for a checkup.
Oh, okay. Are there any behaviors or strategies, I mean, obviously not in your case, but are there ways to decrease your chances of being diagnosed with cancer? Like, do diet and exercise really help, or is that just a myth?
Nope, that's definitely true. There's research out there to prove it. American Cancer Society recommends that you do all the things that you hear you should do. You eat healthy, you exercise, you maintain a healthy weight, don't smoke, wear sunscreen. So these are things. There are obviously environmental factors that can make a difference, but if you do the best you can in those regards, you decrease your risk. Okay.
Speaking of sunscreen, another tangent, is there like a recommended SPF?
Minimum is 15 that the American Cancer Society recommends.
I remember growing up, oh yeah, it's got SPF 2, I'm good.
We definitely recommend 15 for daily use, and that you follow all the instructions. So reapply every 2 hours, try to stay in the shade during peak hours. If you're swimming or if you're sweating, you should reapply more often.
So that waterproof stuff really isn't waterproof?
It does work to an extent, but if you say you're swimming and you get out of the pool and you towel dry, you're rubbing off most of your sunscreen. So you're going to want to reapply anyway.
All right. Now for kids, is it really important that they have like the water babies or the child approved, or can they just slap on any sunscreen?
Pretty much any sunscreen will work. They recommend for children under 6 months that it's mostly you should just keep them in the shade. Small amounts of sunscreen can be used on exposed areas for babies, but for the most part you shouldn't be exposing your baby to direct sunlight.
They'll just get cranky. See, my kids are old enough now, I can just, slap some sunscreen on. Go play. All right, yeah, and I sit in the shade. What are some of the benefits of early detection?
I think the greatest benefit is being able to find out that you have cancer before it has progressed to a more advanced stage. So we do have recommended screenings such as the mammogram and the colonoscopy at certain ages that you get one of those every year.
Mammograms like 40?
Mammograms are about 40, colonoscopy 50, yeah. So we actually are trying to really promote colon cancer screening, and the American Cancer Society has a new goal of getting 80% of all Americans that are 50 or older screened by 2020.
Oh, wow, okay. Now, are there ways of early detection for most types of cancer, or are some forms of cancer you're just up a tree without a paddle and, good luck to you?
I think there are definitely better detection systems for some than others, but it's all, I think, about listening to your body, because you know when something is wrong.
Something's
and
not right.
if you really feel that something's not right and your doctor doesn't do what you think that they should be doing, you can go get a second opinion. And it's not, you're not dissing your doctor in any way, but it's all about knowing, this is not normal for me, and making sure that you just go get anything checked out.
And not to pull my poor friend as an example, but she had been having like abdominal issues, and they ran all these tests and put her on all these, extra vitamin supplements and everything, and then they ended up doing a gallbladder removal surgery, and she still didn't recover. So, the poor woman, I think she had all the symptoms and she was getting as many opinions as she could get, but everybody was just like missing the target. And then when they finally diagnosed her, it was, I wouldn't say too late, but it was later than she would have preferred, I think. So far she's, knock on wood, she's doing great. Her hair's growing back.
Fingers crossed for her.
So I saw her this weekend, and she's like, yeah, I'm doing great. I'm happy. My hair's growing back, and, I'm really psyched for her. So anyway,
all good things.
So can you think of any, we talked about cancer research and how they're better able to identify causes or, the genetics, the chromosomes. What has the research, do you know if they've been able to uncover new treatments, and what kind of treatments have they been able to uncover?
I think a lot of the treatments have become less invasive.
Okay.
So there's been improvements continually, and I don't really know about any specifics.
Because we were talking about, chemo is basically you're throwing toxins in your system, but it seems now that it's not quite, I don't want to say as toxic, but there seem to be like fewer side effects.
They can definitely do more targeted treatments now than they were able to do before. So instead of killing all the cells in your body, they can focus in more on just the cancer cells in ways that they haven't been able to do previously.
And even just, not the treatment itself, but there are, I don't want to say shortcuts, but like this friend of mine, she's got a port in her shoulder, so they don't have to stick her with an IV and redo and destroy the veins in her hand. She just plugs in and ready to go. That's how she explained it to me. I'm not quite sure. I know that really isn't scientific, but so there are other means or other ways of making the patient feel a little more comfortable.
Absolutely.
Through the research.
One of the biggest focuses of the Cancer Action Network, which is our sister organization, is focus on palliative care this year, and this is pain management care, and it's for any point in the treatment process. So it's often confused with end of life care, but it doesn't just have to be for end of life. From the second a patient is diagnosed, they can look into palliative care treatments to help just ease some of the pain and make them more comfortable while they're undergoing treatment. Such as, do you want to elaborate on that at all, or? How would somebody find out about that? What's the, do you happen to know the website offhand, or? They can go to acscan.org, or they could call the 1-800 number for the American Cancer Society, which is 227-2345.
Good job remembering.
Thank you.
And what's the sister organization called again?
It's called the Cancer Action Network.
Cancer Action Network. Okay, of course. So that's like all phases, all aspects of the treatment from beginning to end, just kind of supplemental.
Exactly. It's a team of doctors and nurses, and they work together to just try to find ways to help make this treatment process easier for the patient.
Is it psychological or physical or both?
Definitely both, because your mood has a lot of how you feel throughout the day.
It just seems like so many. I think this is an issue that I've had personally because I haven't faced this, but it seems like every person I know that has been diagnosed with cancer has been incredibly positive the entire time. And it's just, how does your mind just get around that positiveness?
I think you just have to. It's when you
face
when you face that situation, you can look at it in either one of two ways. You can say, well, I'm going to fight this as hard as I can and fight for my life, or the other alternative is just to give up, and that's not what people want to do.
Not a lot of people like that idea. Okay, so let's get into the relay, because that's like your baby or your puppy or whatever you want to call it. Your goal.
Yes.
Not really a goal, but so when is the relay?
It is
in Burlington.
Saturday, June 21st to Sunday, June 22nd.
Oh, it's Saturday to Sunday? Because
yes.
before it used to be like Friday to Saturday.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
It just kind of
How does the date chosen? Just based on previous years, what people like, what people didn't like? And
usually it's just the same weekend every year, but if something comes up at the venue or with the committee, they'll change it, or if they notice maybe a low participation rate one year, they'll try to change the date and see if that increases the participation.
Now, is it too late to become involved in this year's relay?
Absolutely not. We accept registrations during relay itself. And we also welcome any visitors. So
so it starts Saturday at 6 p.m.?
At 6 p.m.
And goes until Sunday at 6 a.m.?
Yes.
So you could be home for breakfast.
Exactly.
Stop at Dunkies on your way home.
Yep.
Perfect. A nice warm cup of coffee.
Exactly.
Not that you need a warm cup of coffee, because it's going to be beautiful weather.
That's what we're hoping.
You can stargaze.
Yes.
As long as it's not a full moon. So, I'm like totally zoning out. The Burlington Relay is the 21st and 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of the other relays around?
There's relays. There's one in Bedford. There's one in Stoneham.
Do you know when those are? Offhand?
Offhand, no.
Look on the website.
I'd love to help promote my coworkers' events too, but I can't remember everyone's dates. But yes,
so you only, so your office is based in Acton, and it covers, we were talking about this earlier, from like Springfield all the way to Boston and north?
North,
so
yes.
Kind of like a little half circle type thing. So you personally do not cover all of the relays in that area?
Thankfully. My job would be very difficult otherwise.
True. Just clone yourself,
If I could, I would, but then I'd still put myself to work on the 4 events that I have.
So if somebody were interested in participating, they could probably go to the website, your website, and find out the relay that's closest to them, or a date that works best for them. Now, throwing another curve in here, a long time ago when I first moved to the Burlington area, Leahy Clinic was heavily involved in Burlington's Relay for Life. Are they still involved?
Not so much. They have their own walk now, so they aren't as involved. We do have American Cancer Society representatives within Leahy, but they're not as involved within Relay.
Okay. So they're kind of like two separate organizations with a little cross-representation, but not much. So, okay, I cut you off earlier. So if somebody wanted to participate, they could. Do they have to be on a team, or could they come individually?
They don't have to be on a team. You can sign up as an individual participant. It's relayforlife.org/BurlingtonMA to sign up for the Burlington event. If you can cut out the Burlington MA part, then you can search for any other event. But you can sign up as an individual. We encourage teams. It's a team-based event, so it's definitely more fun if you can get a couple people to join you. But if
now, if you just wanted to do it, could you find a team willing to accept?
Oh yeah, you could probably
to adopt you.
You could ask around. I'm sure there's plenty of people in Burlington that are heavily involved in relay, so I'm sure they'd take on anyone that'd be interested in participating on a team. But if someone wasn't sure they wanted to do relay, we welcome visitors up until 11 p.m.
Okay. And what would those visitors do? Would they participate and walk, or?
Yeah, they can just kind of see our opening ceremony, which is at 6, and our survivors, they take the first walk, first lap around the track and help begin the relay, and then they're followed by the caregivers. Then the survivors and caregivers go off and they have a special reception in their honor. There's a full dinner buffet. And then everyone starts walking, and we have tons of activities planned, entertainment, we have a DJ, so we try to make it as fun as possible. And it's a very family-friendly event.
So you mentioned the DJ, and since it's an overnight event, does the DJ stop at like 10 or 11 o'clock and, you know, kind of like quiet hours like back in college or
Yes,
anything?
thanks to noise ordinances, the DJ has to stop playing at 11, so he does. But we have our Luminaria ceremony at 9 p.m., so
Okay.
relay gets pretty quiet around then because that's the time that we take to remember those that we've lost to cancer.
Okay.
So this is a more somber setting, and it's a time for reflection and grieving and remembering.
Okay. Couple of questions backing up a little bit. Team participation. Is there like a flat registration fee? And then the teams, because I noticed a lot of my friends that are participating in the relay, they're like, we have X number of dollars to raise for our goal. Who sets those goals?
Teams set their own goals.
Okay.
So there's a $10 flat registration fee per participant.
Okay.
This just helps us with overhead costs.
Okay.
And then
Seems very reasonable.
we allow teams to just set their own goal because we
Okay.
think if the more ownership you have over your goals, the more likely you are to reach them.
Okay.
We recommend that each person try to raise $100 because if you raise your $100, you get the 2014 commemorative t-shirt.
Ooh, it's all about the t-shirt.
It is.
All about
the
t-shirt.
t-shirt's very big. It's a very important part of relay. People like to parade around their t-shirts from year to year and
Okay.
bring them back to different years. So we do recommend that $100 is raised, but you don't have to raise $100 in order to participate.
You're not going to get kicked out
Not
if you
at
don't
all.
do that. Okay. And the luminaries. Are they called luminaries?
Luminaria.
Luminaria, sorry. Is there a fee to like purchase one in memory or in honor of someone? Do you have to do that through a team? Can you do that through you? How?
So,
Tell me more about that.
They're available at every team captain meeting and at our bank night. And we do have some teams that sell them too as part of their fundraising efforts. It's a recommended $10 donation
Okay.
per Luminaria bag, but if someone really wanted to fill out a Luminaria bag and they only had $5 or $1, no one's going to turn you down because it's a very important part of relay, and we wouldn't want to deny someone the opportunity to fill one out in memory of a loved one.
Now, in the past, how many luminaria have been represented? Because they go around like the entire track.
They do. I don't know an exact count, but
Roughly,
we fill the
ballpark.
whole track, so
wow.
probably with a foot between every Luminaria bag, so however long the track
lot.
is. Someone else can do the math.
400 meters, so that's, I don't know. Now, how many teams, offhand, do you know how many teams are participating in Burlington's relay this year?
Right now we have 54, and our
Okay.
goal is 62, so we're getting there, but definitely we have a lot of teams already.
So it's only 3-4 weeks away?
3.5 weeks. So we
Okay.
might not get to 62, but we have about 348 participants, and we're looking to definitely grow that number. So if our teams increase in size, we'll be happy.
Okay. All right. Now, how has that changed from last year? Do you have any statistics on last year?
It's actually about the same.
Okay.
We're trying, our goal of 62 is obviously higher than last year, but we're pretty much on par with where we were at this time last year.
Okay. Now, the teams have to, you know, they don't have to, but a lot of the teams pride themselves in raising money. How long do they have to do that? Do they have to be completed by the relay, or can money trickle in like a week after or a month after? Or is there a
Luckily,
deadline?
our fiscal year ends August 31st, so donations can still come in up until that point to count toward this year's relay.
Okay. Now, are there other fundraising efforts for, you know, that are local other than the relay, or is the relay like it?
The relay is the major event that we
Okay.
have for the American Cancer Society in the area. But there's also, if you're more interested in breast cancer, there's a Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk, one in
Okay.
Boston and one in Worcester, and those are in October.
Is that the Susan G. Komen one?
Nope,
or
those
is
are
that's
strictly
different?
American Cancer Society events.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to cross promote.
That's okay.
Back to the Burlington relay. How did it start? Do you know, like, the history of it, how long it's been going on for, or?
I know this is our 11th year.
Okay.
Not sure of the exact origins, but normally it's just a group of people kind of get together and say, hey, we want to have a relay here.
Okay.
They approach the American Cancer Society, and it's born out of that desire.
Okay. Do you know how long the American Cancer Society has been coordinating or organizing relays?
Yep, since 1985.
So 85. Okay, so a little bit longer than Burlington has been doing it,
Yes.
but still not forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we already talked about how it's grown. Are there any, do you know of any new things that are going to happen this year?
Well, we have a lot of businesses that are participating this year,
Okay.
which is something that we pride ourselves on. We're
Okay.
trying to grow the business participation.
Now, what do, like, the businesses do? Do they just, like...
A lot of them form teams.
Okay.
So that's a really great way for businesses to get involved, is to directly form a team, and they can do fundraising at the office. Some of them, we have Capital Grill that's coming, and they do their fundraising by selling food at the event. So
Brilliant!
great prices at Relay if you want to come down and get
Good
some food
food
from
at the
Capital
Relay.
Grill. Yes. And other businesses will participate by sponsoring the event with either an in-kind or monetary donation.
Okay, like on the T-shirts, do you have, like, sponsorships of, you know,
Yep.
local companies
So
that do that?
we have Reamer and Bronstein and Herb Chambers, who are our two T-shirt sponsors this year.
Okay. Gee, Herb doesn't have, like, a car to drive around. All that, you know.
I don't think they'd let us put that on their nice track at Burlington High.
You never know. Okay. Now we talked about the different changes over time. You mentioned, increase in sponsorship. If there's a business out there that wants to participate, is it too late for a business sponsorship?
It definitely isn't. We have with our T-shirts, there's a cutoff deadline because obviously we have to order those and they're custom printed. But
Has that deadline passed yet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Next year.
Next year, definitely. I would recommend for any business that wants to get involved to just come down to the event, check it out, see that this is something you really want to be involved in, and maybe we could work together to figure out how would be the best way for the business to participate next year. If they still want to give a monetary donation this year, we will do our best to try to meet whatever sponsorship requirements.
Signage.
Exactly. We do have signage for all of our sponsors, regardless of their, beginning at $250. So you can give as little as $250 and still receive a special sign at the event.
Okay. Another tangent that I didn't ask you about before. At the event itself, what are security requirements for American Cancer Society to provide? Do you have to have a police officer on duty, like a detail? Or, does there have to be the fire marshal there in case somebody decides to roast marshmallows and make s'mores? Or, are there any...
Thankfully, we can't have open flames. But the fire department, police department know that this event is happening. Thankfully, it's also a gated gate around the track. We provide a wristband for anyone that's staying the evening. So at 11 o'clock, we ask all our visitors and anyone that does not have a wristband to leave the event. And so at that point, anyone who's there is a registered participant, understands what's going to be happening. For youth, there's a youth waiver and a chaperone agreement involved. So this is just an extra measure for our younger participants.
Okay, so youth, if they're under 18 or under 16, they have to have a certain number of responsible adults. It's not just an adult anymore, I noticed, responsible supervision. Now, I remember attending like the opening ceremonies in past years, and there's been like a couple high school organizations or high school clubs that participate. Do you know if any of them are going to be participating this year?
I'm not exactly sure. We definitely will have a speaker who's usually a survivor that opens up our relay.
How's somebody like that chosen? Whoever volunteers, or?
Basically, it's we kind of sit down as a committee and say, who do we know that might be interested in speaking, and then kind of put the word out there, put our feelers out and see if anyone would be interested.
Okay. Are there other tie-in events that you can think of offhand? I don't know if we already talked to this, like dinners or, I don't know, walkathons to raise money for the, well, probably not walkathons, but ice cream scoopathons or any other events to raise money. What are some of the ideas? Do you know of some of the ideas that some teams are doing?
We have a lot of teams that kind of do just your most basic fundraising. They do bake sales, car washes, restaurant nights are really popular now.
Okay.
Uno's hosts a lot of restaurant nights for us, as well as Orange Leaf, the frozen
Orange
yogurt.
Leaf is getting pretty popular
They're
too.
great. They've done a number of nights for us, which has been fantastic.
Excellent.
One of the biggest fundraisers that we have for Burlington Relay is our Dancing with the Stars, which happened at the end of April.
Okay.
So this
Were
is
you
a big
dancing?
event. I was not dancing.
Next year.
I'm not a very good dancer, but the dancers who were there were great.
Okay.
So that's our biggest kind of fundraiser for the event. But teams, it's mostly team-based, so teams and individuals make up the core of our fundraising.
Okay. You mentioned my favorite show, Dancing with the Stars. How would, for the fundraising part of that, do you attend that to watch the stars dance, or is the fundraising getting the celebrities to participate, or how does that work?
It's,
do you know?
You can buy a ticket to the event, so hopefully it's something we'll do again next year. It was our second annual this year, and you buy a ticket. There's little appetizers.
Where was it this year?
It was in Bedford. I can't remember which hotel, but it's held in a ballroom, and there's tables all around. There are 6 local Burlington celebrities that we pair off with a professional dancer.
And the audience doesn't vote them off the island or anything, do
No,
they?
no. There you can. One of the ways you can help us fundraise is by purchasing a vote. So you buy votes to vote for your favorite, vote for the best, and help them win the title of the Burlington Dancing with the Stars.
Okay, so it's skill and audience, just like on my favorite show. So, do teams need to stay? You know, you mentioned the overnight. Do teams need to stay?
You don't have to stay. We have a lot of family teams with young children. They don't always stay the night. A lot of fun does occur at night, so we try to keep the energy going.
Do you have like
throughout
the
evening.
glow in the dark wristbands for?
We have all kinds of things. Our entertainment chair is really fantastic and tries to plan new things every year. Minute to Win It games, all kinds of fun stuff for all ages too.
To keep people awake.
Exactly.
And
people do
active.
sleep. The good thing about our event is that we divide up into family town and kind of teen town. So if you're in the family town side of the track, we do dim the lights so that you can try to get some sleep. And teen town is where all the fun happens.
Now, is it a requirement, and if so, how do you enforce it, for teams to, because I think originally it was required for a team member to be walking constantly, hence the term relay. Is that still a requirement that you have to have somebody on the track at all times?
Yes, that's what we try to have. We don't enforce it. It's not like we go around and say who's on your track right now, but that's the whole point. It's representative of the life of someone battling cancer. So because cancer never sleeps, neither do we. So teams, we encourage them to schedule shifts for the team members so that they can make sure that someone's on the track at all times.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit before about the cancer survivors and how they are recognized. So in the opening ceremony, they're recognized, and then they do the survivor lap, and then there's like a reception.
Yep, there's a dinner buffet reception by Sonia Rollins and Exit Premier Realty and LaCoche's Bakery. They put it all together.
LaCoche's.
It's a really fantastic reception, and it's at no charge to the survivors. It's our celebration of their survivorship. So it's for a survivor and their caregiver.
Okay. Now, does somebody, if there is a survivor, do they have to participate in the entire relay, or can they just show up for the survivor part?
Yep, a lot of our survivors do just come for the survivor lap and for the reception. Some of them do stay, some of them are on family teams, which is really great. But we do sometimes get an older crowd, so they don't always want to stay up all night, participate. So they can just come. You can walk up to relay the day of the event and just come to the survivor dinner. You don't have to register in advance. We love when you register in advance because it allows us to kind of...
I'm not a big fan of surprises, so I can understand that you're not.
It allows us to kind of put together a nice survivor gift for you.
Okay. Now, again, stream of consciousness, the term survivor, is that someone who has had cancer but is deemed cancer-free, or could it be somebody who's currently battling the disease, or is there a definition?
The American Cancer Society says that anyone is a survivor if they've ever heard the words, "you have cancer." So it can be, they could be diagnosed yesterday or the day of relay and come down to the event, or they could be like me and be 20 years past treatment and be totally done. So we encourage anyone that's ever had cancer to come and celebrate the fact that they're a survivor.
Okay. Cool. I didn't know. Thank you for clarifying that, because
You're
I'm like,
welcome.
okay. So we talked about luminaries. Do they need to be in memory of someone, or could they be in honor or in support of someone like a cancer survivor, a survivor?
Absolutely. There's no restriction. So if you want to dedicate one in honor, you're more than welcome to do that. People get very crafty with their luminary bags sometimes.
So when do you create those luminary bags?
Some people will pick them up at our team captain or bank night and decorate them and bring them to relay, but we also have them available with markers and other craft materials. But sometimes people really like to make them special, and they'll put a picture of their survivor on the bags or a picture of a family member that they've lost. So they get really sentimental.
Okay, cool. So that's also a big fundraiser of yours too. Now, you mentioned bank night. What is that?
It's our kind of final meeting before relay, and it's when you can turn in any donations you may be holding on to, pick up your T-shirt if you've raised your $100, and now,
does everybody have to go to that, or just like the team captain?
Just the team captain can, as long as they've collected everything. It helps us kind of make a smoother evening, but it is over 2 nights, which helps. So we're the 16th and the 17th of June are our bank nights this year, and it's just a place to get last-minute information too.
Okay. Now, is there a website just for the Burlington Relay, or how do you go about disseminating information? Newsletter? Or,
we have, when you sign up, we automatically have your email associated with the event. So we send out a lot of emails, sometimes too much, but we'd rather have you know more than not enough.
Exactly.
We're
just going to fill your email box.
Exactly. You don't have to read all of them. We have a Facebook page and a Twitter. We have a committee member that specifically does social media. She does a great job.
She should tune into my last show that was all about social media marketing. Plug.
She does great. But we have relayforlife.org/BurlingtonMA.
Okay.
If you forget the MA, you might be directed to another state, so it's important to put the MA.
Understood. Okay, we talked a little bit before about team. You know, I need my script. I'm sorry. So we talked a little bit about a team. Are there a minimum number of people that form a team, or is it just, can 2 people be a team?
Yep, there's no minimum requirement, so you can be a 1-person team if you really want to. It's definitely more fun if you bring friends and family along with you.
And if you have to have someone on the track at all times, you probably don't want to be a 1-person team.
Yep.
Get your exercise, though.
You really will. Our teams are usually between 8 and 12 participants.
Okay.
But there's no cap either, so if you wanted to have a team of 30, you could.
Okay. Easier for fundraising if you have 30 people on the team. Then you got to still raise money for T-shirts What color are the t-shirts?
The participant ones are white with the
Okay.
American Cancer Society logo on the front, the Relay for Life, and the sponsors on the back. And then team captains are what we call safari. They're brown, basically.
Okay.
And then
Khaki.
survivors are always purple.
Purple. Why purple?
Purple is our kind of signature color. It's
Okay.
what we associate with any cancer, so it's not devoted to one
Okay.
specific cancer.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you like did tie-dye or something. You know. That would be cool.
A lot of people do like to tie-dye their shirts, but we
Okay.
get teams that have a lot of team spirit,
Okay.
and they will usually
Yeah, is there like a
make their
costume
own.
contest or something?
There's a campsite decorating contest,
Okay.
and people usually will make their own T-shirts too. So
Really?
you get your T-shirt if you raise your $100, but
Okay.
then if you're really excited and want to get into it, you can make your own team T-shirt to wear at the
Okay.
event.
I'm just thinking, you know, ooh, costumes, because, you know, sometimes like you watch, you know, the marathon or something and people with silly hats or, you know, I think one year I saw like somebody dressed in a wedding gown running the Boston Marathon. I'm like, okay.
We do have theme laps.
Oh, okay.
So if people, they're out on our Facebook page, all our different theme laps.
Okay.
And
Can you think of any examples right now?
I think there's a Hawaiian lap.
Okay.
Maybe there's a tutu lap. I'm positive of that
Oh,
one.
I like that one.
So people are encouraged to bring these items to participate in
Okay.
theme laps.
Gotta bring their whole trunk, you know, costume for this, costume for that.
It's a big production.
But that makes it more fun.
It does.
makes it
It
more
really
fun.
does. It adds to the event.
Now, again, tangent. We talked about the sound ordinance or noise sound ordinance, shutting the DJ down at night. Does he go home he or she go home at that point, or do they start everything up again at like 5 o'clock, or is there a 6 o'clock closing ceremony, or?
We do have a fight back ceremony at midnight, and this is where we encourage people to rally and fight back against cancer.
Okay.
We do this without our DJ and
Without a PA system.
pretty much, but it's still very powerful and still gets everyone really energized.
Okay.
And since it's at midnight, it's a perfect time. And then we have a closing ceremony about 5:30 where we thank all of our sponsors. We try to tell you how much money that we've raised, and just thank everyone for participating.
Okay. Now, are you going to be there the entire night, number crunching at 4:30?
I would like to, hopefully, be able to at least get a rough estimate of what's brought in.
Okay. I think we talked a lot about. Oh, we talked about fundraising goals and where there really isn't a goal. The teams kind of set it. Do you provide suggestions or ideas or guidelines for fundraising?
We definitely do. We provide fundraising materials at every single meeting.
Okay.
There are a million different ways that you can raise just $100. Most popular way is just by sending out emails or letters to your family and friends telling them why you're participating in Relay and asking them if they might be able to donate just a couple of dollars, because every penny adds up.
Right.
We give out coin cans because canning is very popular. Some people raise their $100 in just change.
Wow. Okay.
And then we also have great things like little scratch cards where you scratch off a circle and it reveals an amount, and then you ask the person to donate that amount. And the great thing about the card is the highest amount is $10. So most people are willing to give $10.
Okay.
If you scratch off the whole card, it's $100.
Oh, I like that. Now, you talked about, you know, sending out an email. Now, some of my friends have sent out that email either for a relay or for some other fundraising event, and there's like a website set up and you can see my team following this link. Is that something that American Cancer Society sets up for the teams, or is it up to the team to design a website too?
No, we actually set everything up for you. When you register, the first person to register for a team is automatically designated as the team captain, and they can go in and there's you know, there's already things written on there, kind of the pre-formatted speech, if you will, but people can customize it as much as they want. They can add their own pictures, and then each participant has their own personal page that they can also customize. So
the individual can have a page that links to the team page that links to
the overall event. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then all the events go back to American Cancer Society. So it's like a big ripple effect.
It is.
Cool. Isn't technology great? Okay, what are deadlines? You know, we may have talked about this before, but we only have a few minutes left. So if someone wants to participate, what should they do?
Register as soon as you can.
Okay.
And
so there's no actual deadline, but the sooner the better.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you want to try to fundraise before the
event,
exactly. If you want your T-shirt, try to get your $100 before the event, before bank night if you can. But we will also have T-shirts available at Relay itself.
Okay. So bank night you said is June 16th.
16th and 17th.
We'll say the 16th. And the relay is the 21st.
Correct.
Okay. And it is here.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, what are the goals?
Our income goal is $160,000 this year.
Okay. And what was it last year? Do you happen to know? A little less than that.
A little less than that, yeah.
So 160, and that is by the end of the fiscal year?
Yes.
But ideally by the relay itself.
Exactly. So right now we have almost, or maybe even at this point, we have $68,000 raised, and we're about 3.5 weeks out. So this is we're on track right now.
Oh, okay. And now, do the teams update you? You meaning, you know, the head of, you know, or the coordinator of the relay, update every meeting, or do you like surprise? How do you know you're on track?
Most of it is online, which is great.
Okay.
So the website automatically tells us, and then when we get offline donations, we try to process them as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And then we update the website. So the website is a really good indicator of the progress of the event.
And are contributions tax deductible?
Of course.
Okay. Any minimum for?
Nope.
Okay.
Not at all.
Right.
If you do make a contribution online, you can print out a receipt. If you make one with a cash or check, we can send you a mailed receipt.
All right. Well, we are out of time. The hour flew by just like that. So I do want to thank you very much for coming and talking about Relay, because the Relay is a very important part of Burlington, as well as, I'm assuming, based on our conversation, very important part of American Cancer Society, and helping people celebrate another birth. Is it celebrate another birthdays? Celebrate more birthdays. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to thank everybody at home for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed our conversation as much as I did. And hopefully we will see you at the Relay for Life. And I'll see you around town, and have a great evening. Thanks.